Teachings of Lord Caitanya by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda.
Chapter 27, Lord Caitanya and Rāmānanda Roy. The author of Caitanya-caritāmṛta has described Lord Caitanya Mahāprabhu as the ocean of transcendental knowledge, and Sri Rāmānanda Roy as the cloud which is produced from that ocean. Rāmānanda Roy was a greatly advanced scholar in devotional service, and by the grace of Lord Caitanya, he gathered all transcendental conclusions, just as a cloud gathers water from the ocean. As clouds appear from the ocean, distribute water all over the world, and return to the ocean, so by the grace of Lord Caitanya, Rāmānanda Roy attained his higher knowledge of devotional service, and again, after retiring from service, resolved to see Lord Caitanya in Puri. When Lord Caitanya visited the southern part of India, he first went to the great temple known as Gaura-Nitai Kshetra. This temple is situated in a place known as Simhachalam, 5 miles from the Visakhapatnam railway station. The temple is situated on the top of a hill. There are many temples in that area, but Gaura-Nitai Kshetra temple is the largest of all. This temple is filled with beautiful sculpture of interest to many students, and due to its popularity, it is a very rich temple. An inscription in the temple states that the king of Vijayanagar formerly decorated this temple with gold and even smeared the body of the deity with gold. To facilitate attendance, there are free apartments for visitors at the temple. The temple is managed by priests of the Rāmānanda sect. When Lord Caitanya visited this temple, he praised the deity and quoted a verse from Sridhar Swami's commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. Ugropyanugra evayam swabhaktanam nukeshari keshariva swapotanam anyesham ugravikrama. Although Lord Nrsimha is very severe to demons and non-devotees, he is very kind to his submissive devotees, like Prahlad. Lord Nrsimha appeared as a half-man, half-lion incarnation of Krishna, when Prahlad, a boy devotee of the Lord, was harassed by his demoniac father, Hiranyakashipu. Just as a lion is very ferocious to other animals, but very kind and submissive to his cubs, so Lord Nrsimha appeared ferocious to Hiranyakashipu and very kind to his devotee, Prahlad. After visiting the temple of Gaura-Nitai, the Lord proceeded further south into India and ultimately reached the bank of the Godavari. While on the bank of this river, the Lord remembered the Jamuna River in Vrindavan, and he considered the trees on the bank to be the forest of Vrindavan. Thus he was in ecstasy there. After taking a bath on the banks of the Godavari, the Lord sat near the bank and began chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. While sitting and chanting, the Lord saw that the governor of the province, Sri Rāmānanda Roy, had reached the banks of the river accompanied by his associates, which included many Brahmins. Previously, the Lord had been asked by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to visit the great devotee Rāmānanda Roy at Kabur. The Lord could understand that the man approaching the river bank was Rāmānanda Roy, and he desired to see him immediately. However, because he was in the renounced order of life, he restrained himself from going to see a political personage. Being a great devotee, Rāmānanda Roy was attracted by the features of Lord Caitanya, who appeared as a sannyasi, and he himself came to see the Lord. Upon reaching Caitanya Mahāprabhu, Rāmānanda Roy prostrated himself and offered his obeisances and respects. Lord Caitanya received him by vibrating Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When Rāmānanda Roy presented his credentials, Lord Caitanya embraced him, and both of them were overwhelmed with ecstasy. The Brahmins who accompanied Rāmānanda Roy were surprised to see them embracing in transcendental ecstasy. The Brahmins were all stalwart followers of the rituals, and they could not understand the meaning of such devotional symptoms. Indeed, they were rather surprised to see such a great sannyasi touch a Shudra. And they were also surprised to see Rāmānanda Roy, who was a great governor and practically king of that province, crying simply by touching a sannyasi. Lord Caitanya understood the Brahmin's thoughts, and considering the unfavorable situation, he pacified himself. After this, Lord Caitanya and Rāmānanda Roy sat down together. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya has spoken very highly of you, Lord Caitanya informed him, so I have come to see you. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya considers me to be one of his devotees, Rāmānanda Roy replied. Therefore, he has kindly recommended that you see me. Rāmānanda Roy very much appreciated the Lord's touching a man of wealth. A king, governor, or any politician is always absorbed in thoughts of political affairs and pounds, shilling, pence. Therefore, such persons are avoided by sannyasis. Lord Caitanya, however, knew Rāmānanda Roy to be a great devotee, and therefore he did not hesitate to touch and embrace him. Rāmānanda Roy was surprised by Lord Caitanya's behavior, and he cited a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. The great personalities and sages appear in the homes of worldly men just to show them mercy. Lord Caitanya's special treatment of Rāmānanda Roy indicated that although Rāmānanda Roy was born in a non-Brahminical family, he was far, far advanced in spiritual knowledge and activity. Therefore, he was more respectable than one who simply happens to be born in a Brahminical family. Although Rāmānanda, out of his meek and gentle behavior, considered himself to be born in a lower Shudra family, Lord Caitanya nonetheless considered him to be situated in the highest transcendental stage of devotion. Devotees never advertise themselves as great, but the Lord is very anxious to advertise the glory of his devotees. After meeting for the first time that morning on the banks of the Godavari, Rāmānanda Roy and Lord Caitanya separated with the understanding that Rāmānanda Roy would come in the evening to see the Lord. That evening, after the Lord had taken his bath and seated himself, Rāmānanda Roy came to see him with a servant. He offered his respects and sat down before the Lord. Before Rāmānanda Roy could even ask the Lord a question about the advancement of spiritual knowledge, the Lord himself said, "Please quote some verses from Scripture about the ultimate goal of human life." Sri Rāmānanda Roy at once replied, "A person who is sincere in his occupational duty will gradually develop a sense of God consciousness." He also quoted a verse from Vishnu Purana, which states that the Supreme Lord is worshipped by one's occupational duty and that there is no alternative for satisfying him. The purport is that human life is meant for understanding one's relationship with the Supreme Lord, and by acting in that way, any human being can dovetail himself in the service of the Lord by discharging his prescribed duties. For this purpose, human society is divided into 4 classes: the intellectuals, or Brahmins, the administrators, or Kshatriyas, the merchants, or Vaishyas, and the laborers, or Shudras. For each class, there are prescribed rules and regulations, as well as occupational functions. Prescribed duties and qualities of the 4 classes are described in Bhagavad Gita. A society which is civilized and organized should follow the prescribed rules and regulations for the particular classes. At the same time, for spiritual advancement, the 4 stages of ashram must also be followed, namely student life, or brahmacharya, householder, or grihastha, retired, or vanaprast, and the renounced life, sannyas. Rāmānanda Roy stated that those who strictly follow the rules and regulations of these 8 social divisions can actually satisfy the Supreme Lord, and one who does not follow them certainly spoils his human form of life and glides toward hell. One can peacefully execute the goal of human life simply by following the rules and regulations which apply to oneself. The character of a particular person develops by following the regulative principles in accordance with one's birth, association, and education. The divisions of society are so designed that many people of different character can be regulated under them for the peaceful administration of society and for spiritual advancement as well. The social classes can be further characterized as follows. 1. He whose aim is to understand the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, and devote himself to the learning of the Vedas and similar literatures is called a Brahmin. 2. He who is taken to displaying force and entering government administration is called a Kshatriya. 3. He who is engaged in agriculture, herding cows, and carrying out a trade or business is called a Vaishya. 4. He who has no special knowledge but is satisfied by serving the other 3 classes is called a Shudra. If one faithfully discharges his prescribed duties, he is sure to advance toward perfection. Thus, regulated life is the source of perfection for everyone. When regulated life culminates in devotional service to the Lord, one attains his perfection. Otherwise, such regulations are simply a useless waste of time. After hearing Rāmānanda Roy expound upon the proper execution of a regulated life, Lord Caitanya said that such regulations are simply external. Indirectly, he asked Rāmānanda to expound on something superior to such an external exhibition. Formal execution of rituals in religion is useless unless it culminates in the perfection of devotional service. Lord Vishnu is not satisfied simply by a ritualistic adherence to Vedic instructions. He is actually pleased when one attains the stage of devotional service. According to the verse cited by Rāmānanda Roy, one can rise to the point of devotional service by ritualistic performance. In Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna, who appeared to deliver all classes of people, states that a human being can attain the highest perfectional stage of life by worshiping the Supreme Lord, from whom everything is emanated, through his occupational duty. Sve sve karmanya virata samsiddhim labhate nara swakarma nirata siddhim yata vindati tach shrinu yata pravatir bhutanam yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmana tam abhyacharya siddhim vindati manava. By following his qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, man can, in the performance of his own duty, attain perfection. This perfectional process is followed by great devotees like Bodhayana, Tonka, Dramita, Guhadev, Karpati, and Bharuchi. All these great personalities have followed this particular path of perfection. The Vedic injunctions also aim in this direction. Rāmānanda Roy wanted to present these facts before the Lord, but apparently discharge of ritualistic duties wasn't sufficient, for Lord Caitanya said that it was external. Lord Caitanya was pointing out that if a man has a material conception of life, he cannot attain the highest perfection, even if he follows all the ritualistic regulations.